Coming up on this edition of NICB News. Seeing is believing, or maybe not. We'll show you how real-life crashes help uncover possible insurance fraud.
It was very overwhelming.
Plus, we'll tell you the story about how one innocent woman got caught in the middle of a vehicle cloning scheme and didn't even know it.
Well, it's been for years that we think the case principals have been involved.
We'll also focus on an alleged multi-state theft ring that reportedly stole over $1.5 million worth of heavy equipment. That's all next on NICB News. Hello and welcome to the spring edition of NICB News. I'm Roger Morris. Thousands of insurance claims are made every day in this country for auto accidents, and they added up to some $125 billion in payments by insurers in 2013. With that many claims, unfortunately, there's also a significant amount of fraud. And that's why it's important to be able to sort out fact from fiction. And there's no better way to do that than this. This is a crash demonstration put on in Sacramento for insurance industry claims experts to give them a first-hand look at what happens in a real crash as opposed to a staged accident.
Unfortunately, they don't get to see a live vehicle collision. They are in their offices working files based on file documentation, photo documentation, statements, other information, which is very, very critical. But this is a very unique opportunity to see two cars come together and see what damage actually occurs given a specific collision type.
Bill King may be a crash dummy, but he's an expert when it comes to forensics, determining whether the crash results mesh with the claim for damages and injuries.
That's the whole objective here, is to be able to recognize the red flags that will exist in these case types by looking at the physical damage that they see here in this parking lot and seeing if it's consistent with what is alleged to have occurred in their file.
California continues to be a hot spot for staged accidents, with fraudsters claiming both damage to the vehicles and injuries to the occupants of the vehicles, claims that may get a well-deserved second look thanks to this kind of training. Some car transactions are worth a second look as well. As Brian Dreifeld tells us, a routine used car purchase in Wisconsin turned out to be anything but routine.
Imagine if you were told your car really isn't your car.
It was very overwhelming.
Meet Misty, a mother with a full-time career in Lancaster, Wisconsin. For the past 2 years, she's been driving this GMC Denali that she purchased for around $30,000 at a car dealership in Wisconsin. There's only one problem. It's not her vehicle.
What was relayed to me was that it was potentially a stolen vehicle.
Even though she has the paperwork and payment invoices to prove it.
Everything went normal. Yep, no red flags there at all.
It ends up Misty was a victim of a car cloning scam, which is making a stolen vehicle look like a legal one. Car thieves take license plates, vehicle identification numbers, or VINs, and other tags and stickers from a legal car and put them on a stolen car of a similar make and model. NICB Senior Special Agent Lawrence Buzz Brzezinski specializes in identifying these types of vehicles.
This investigation started when Carfax contacted the National Insurance Crime Bureau. They were looking at their data and found that recently this vehicle had changed hands. And when they submitted the data through their database, they found another vehicle identical to it that was currently titled and registered in Peabody, Massachusetts. Using the NICB's databases and our connections with state motor vehicle departments and law enforcement, we were able to trace and identify the original vehicle being in Peabody, Massachusetts, and that this was the suspect vehicle.
In a matter of days, Misty was asked to bring her vehicle in for inspection.
3 days ago, the head of the DMV of Wisconsin called and updated the dealer at which we had purchased the vehicle, and they got in contact with us, and that was the first that we had heard of it, and it was likely a big scam.
In just minutes, Brzezinski was able to identify the vehicle was stolen.
Here's the first clue. Each General Motors assembly plant puts their own sticker on it, final assembly. This one indicates the vehicle was built by General Motors and the United Auto Workers in Janesville, Wisconsin. The vehicle's obviously made in Janesville, Wisconsin, and this label here says manufactured by General Motors of Canada. Okay, if you can zoom in on this, you can see where the label was removed and this one was glued over where the place was. You can see the outline of where the old label was. So this is a counterfeit label. Federal emissions label. The label's missing. It's been removed.
After a full inspection of the vehicle and finding the true VIN number, the true identification of the vehicle was finally made.
It was stolen Palm Beach County, Florida in 2007. And the police department is going to be contacting the chief. The chief's going to be contacting the police department. And we have an insurance interest in it, in that if we found it, law enforcement found it, they want it back.
In many cases, the victims are left out to dry because the vehicles are confiscated by law enforcement, leaving the owner on the hook for any type of payment remaining on the vehicle. However, thanks to a Wisconsin law, Misty will get reimbursed and won't have to suffer through what many other victims go through.
And in Wisconsin, the protocol is that if a vehicle is sold through a dealer here, they have protections. The victim has protections.
There's a lot of victims. I mean, ourselves are the victims of purchasing it. The dealer we bought it from is going to be impacted by this as well, as far as the reimbursement for us.
From Lancaster, Wisconsin, I'm Brian Dreifelt for the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Thanks, Brian. Authorities in southern Indiana believe they have broken up a major multi-state theft ring, allegedly responsible for stealing more than 80 pieces of construction equipment worth over $1.5 million. NICB agents were called into Evansville, Indiana to assist in identifying the recovered equipment by inspecting the identification numbers that the equipment manufacturers used when they were built. NICB agents were then able to track down the owners and determine if an insurance claim had been filed for the equipment. 2 suspects were arrested for the thefts that allegedly took place throughout several states.
Well, it's been for years that we think that the case principals have been involved. They're very knowledgeable of the construction industry and equipments, and they have evolved from doing the actual work into trafficking in stolen equipments.
Insurance fraud continues to be a hot topic in Minnesota, where out-of-state insurance crime rings have moved in to take advantage of the state's no-fault insurance. Lawmakers, prosecutors, and the NICB have been working for over a year to tighten the state's no-fault laws to reduce insurance fraud, and that effort continued with the new legislative session this year.
More importantly here, you have innocent people being victimized. They're in a low-speed accident, they're being solicited at their home, they're being lied to, and they're being steered to clinics, health clinics without a choice. And that clinician is tied in with a lawyer, with a runner. And that's the real problem here in Minnesota, is not just the organized crime scheme, but also the fact that innocent Minnesota taxpayers and consumers are being ripped off.
Last month, claims and special investigation executives from insurance companies around the country gathered in San Diego for the annual Insurance Fraud Management Conference, where NICB personnel led and moderated panels on fraud trends. And that's it for this edition of NICB News. Our next quarterly update will be in the summer. Remember, you can always keep up to date with what's going on in the world of insurance fraud and crime by logging on to our website at www.nicb.org, as well as viewing our social media channels and reading our blog at nicbblog.org. I'm Roger Morris. See you next time.